hope they don't continue that the whole thing. Just having a bunch of tappings. Okay. Hello and welcome back. This week I'm very excited because I am reviewing Twitter friend Kathleen Marple Kalb's A Fatal Finale. I apologize if my dog scoffs some more. I don't know why she's upset. I'm certainly not upset about this book. I actually really enjoyed it, and excuse you. And more than that, I'm excited because I finally have real physical books. Don't get me wrong, I love all of the digital books that you send me, but there's just something about curling up in a corner of the chair with a book that I can't do with my computer. So, having a real book, very exciting. This takes place in 1899 in New York City, and it follows Irish opera singer Ella Shane. More than that, however, she owns her own company, which is really cool because, I mean, think about the 1800s. This is still 21 years before women got the right to vote. This is still a time when opera singers were basically treated as courtesans a lot of times. So it's really cool and very progressive to see this character in such a powerful role considering the time and setting and everything. Moreover, what makes her interesting is I feel like a lot of times when you think opera, like you think that Viking lady in like all the cartoons, like the Bugs Bunny cartoon and whatnot. But the cool thing about Ella is that she does what are called trouser rolls. So a little bit of history for y'all. Way back in the day when women weren't allowed to perform anything, musicians and lyricists still wrote pieces for people with really high voices or sopranos. And since only men were allowed to sing and perform, they would often have young boys do it, or they would basically neuter men so that they wouldn't develop enough testosterone to have their voice dropped, which is kind of scary, to be honest with you. But on a kind of interesting, like, physiological note, there have been studies that have shown that doing that to a man, there's like this really famous opera singer that happened to, and they saw how like his bones literally changed as a result of the lack of testosterone. So, total side note, if you're into biology, like definitely Google that. I don't know who to Google. I'll try to find it, put it in the link below. Anyway, so back to Ella and her trouser rolls. So she sings all the guy parts in all of her operas that she puts on. In this particular opera that this book starts off with, it's Capuletti, which is basically just Romeo and Juliet, but set to music. They're on the last leg of their tour, they're having a really great time, show's doing really well, and then Juliet dies, literally, like on stage. She does her whole, oh happy dagger, poison, and then she dies. And everyone's really sad because, I mean, it's one of their company, they've been touring around with each other for a while, but it's really ambiguous because it's like, was it murder, was it suicide? She seems so happy, which sounds really like a lot of suicide today. Anyway, not to get too dark, the story picks up because her being Juliet, aka Violet, aka Frances, because this girl had a lot going on in her life. Her family is of British aristocracy, so her cousin the Duke comes to town because he doesn't believe for a second that his cousin just killed herself. He develops a friendship, and then some, maybe, with Ella as they're trying to figure out what actually happened. Anyway, so what's really interesting about this book is that it's just has a little bit of everything. So it has a little bit of romance, definitely some mystery, there's some action and sword fighting, there's opera and theater. So honestly, I know that it's one thing to say I really enjoyed the book, but I really do feel like there's probably something for everyone, just because, like, if you don't like romance, there's not like a ton of romance. If you don't like theater, like there's not so much theater that it's like obnoxious or annoying or whatever. The mystery, I think, was carried out very well. I think Kalb is a really descriptive author, and it makes her writing very interesting. I loved the characters. They were just very relatable, I felt. And the character development over the course of the story was just really interesting. I liked how you saw different perspectives as kind of the characters interacted with each other more and kind of grew to not quite totally overhaul their beliefs, but definitely adopt their beliefs a little bit more. For example, with the Duke, he comes out and he even says at the beginning, like, had my cousin pursued singing in Britain, I would have said, no, don't do it, that's crazy, like, you're going to bring shame to the family. But now that I've talked to you, Ella, and now that I've talked to your friend Marie, like, I'm a lot more accepting of that. So that was also really interesting to just kind of see them not only grow as characters in terms of their abilities, but also just kind of grow in terms of their own beliefs. So, definitely really enjoyed Fatal Finale. I do recommend it. I think it's well worth the read, especially since it has a little bit of something for everyone. I can't think of any particular reason why you might not like it all that much, unless you just really don't like mystery. But even so, I felt like there was just so much character development and whatnot that I feel like you could almost get lost in the story just by reading about for the characters. So that's all I've got for the Fatal Finale. Next week I'm excited. It's not a Twitter Friends book, but one that I found in King Supers. Actually, I was very drawn in by the cover. I know what they say, but sometimes you can't help but judge. So next week I will be looking at Martha Hall Kelly's Lost Roses. It's a World War II period novel, so that should be exciting. I'm excited to share my thoughts with you on that next week. Thanks.